Go on now. I'll have a chat with Principal Brox in the morning. Might not do any good, but I don't appreciate disruption in my library and I absolutely will not tolerate bullying in any form. You've had a rough morning, Teo. Can I get you anything? An ice pack? He shook his head. It's okay if you need to hang out here for the rest of your second hour class. Thank you. Anything for my favourite student. He felt himself blush as he turned to leave. Mrs. Friend, wait. Theo slipped back into the little room and grabbed the bound book off the shelf. He returned and held it out to her. Do you know what this is? She took the book and looked it over. Then she shook her head and handed it back. I don't recognize it, but I can honestly say I haven't read every book in the library. Would you like me to see if it's in the system? You could check it out for a few days and then return it. That's okay. I don't want it. Why is that? Just because. How about if I keep it in here in case you change your mind? That way you'll know where to find it. Mrs. Friend carefully placed the book back on the shelf. You know, Teo, sometimes the things we need most find us. Her statement struck him as strange, odd, cryptic. Cryptic means really puzzling. Almost like something Talia would say. Maybe I should just head to the art room. Mr. O'Brien will think I'm skipping class or fell into the toilet or something. She chuckled and ruffled his hair. Well, we can't have that, Theo Dunnery. I'll write Mr. O'Brien a note letting him know you're with me and not in the toilet. For the rest of the day, Theo decided it might be safer to move with a pack of frenzied students between classes, ducking behind sixth graders who had already hit their growth spurt if necessary, sit close to the door at lunch, and refrain from using the bathroom at all costs. Asher was nowhere to be seen. It was as if he'd disappeared. Theo yawned, mentally and physically exhausted. He barely heard what his sixth hour history teacher was saying. The events of the other world completed with the fall of the Roman Empire. The other world was winning. Look, there he is, just sitting there doing his homework, but he's doing his work, but he's tired. He didn't want to go back. He didn't want to see the Roosh who'd lied to him. He didn't want to see the Shatakai, and he most definitely didn't want to meet the monster called Elion. He felt different, off, bit of a zombie, maybe because of the black fog. Ruzer had said he'd blinded him, but Theo could clearly see the names Romulus and Oodacea written in blue dry eraser marker on the whiteboard. Maybe it had been a bad dream after all. He could have fallen asleep in the library, but he didn't remember falling asleep, at least not in this world. He did, however, remember the light. The light that transported him came from the book. If the book was the key, then the book was locked safely in the library away from Theo. After school, Theo met his dad back where they'd parked the car. He sat on his hands, attempting to hide the gashes and burns on his wrist. He'd taken a quick glance at his reflection during the third hour to see what kind of damage Asher had done to his face. Once he'd wiped the blood away, he just looked tired. His eyes were slightly blacked, but his natural colouring disguised it. Seatbelt? Theo's dad asked, checking the gas gauge, both sides mirrors, the rear view mirror and the driver's side mirror again. Check. Oh, Theo yawned. How was your day? Theo watched the passing trees, reminding himself that there were no flying creatures or beasts living in this world. I'm alive. His dad laughed. Of course you are. Stayed invisible? Nope, he said it before thinking. Oh, no superpowers, remember? You all right, buddy? You don't sound like yourself. Anything you need to talk about? Theo felt like he might snap. He wanted to say, no, I'm not all right. Asher smashed my face in. I was transported to another world where I was lied to by white bats, sent on a quest by a mystic, and tortured by even larger bats. He wasn't all right. In fact, his mind felt heavy and foggy. telling his dad what had really happened to him, but he knew his dad would never believe him, and Theo wouldn't blame him. Just tired, he said, suggesting they save their visit to the comic book shop for another day, and after takeout from their favourite Chinese restaurant, Theo asked if he could go to his room. He was eager to be alone. Sure, buddy. Are you positive you're feeling okay? It was a long day. I'm just tired. If you say so, I'll be in to check on you a bit later. Theo lumbered to his room and closed the door. He flopped down on his bed, too exhausted to change his clothes. His teeth could survive one night without brushing. He reached over and switched off his nightstand lamp, accidentally knocking his most recent issue of The Vanisher onto the floor. There was a split second of darkness before the sensor on his nightlight brought the room to light, exposing the shelving of hero-filled stories and epic sagas of good versus evil. Theo couldn't remember a time in his life when he'd slept without light. He hated the darkness, the uncertainty, and the way his imagination conjured images of foul beasts lurking in the shadows. Shatakai. Theo lay on his bed. He had to think. He had to sort it all out. He had to understand. But there sat the problem. He wasn't able to think, not clearly. Nothing that happened in the library made sense. If in fact it had all happened while in the library, maybe he really had been transported to the world of the Roosh. Think, Theo, think. Finally he arrived at a conclusion. None of it had happened. For all he knew, he hadn't woken up from the previous day, and every bit of it, Asha, the book, the Shatakai, was a dream. Teo's lids began to feel heavy. If it was a dream, he didn't want to go back to sleep. He forced his eyes open, attempting to focus on a Lego spaceship he'd built in the 4th grade, but they fell shut again. In his drowsiness, Theo heard his dad enter the room, felt him place his hand upon his forehead. Good night, Theo. Sleep well. Chapter 8. A cool breeze grazed Theo's cheek. Who opened the window? He reached down to pull his quilt over his head. No blankets. No bed. Theo opened his eyes. Blue sky, water lapping on a shore in gentle waves, and behind him a desert. They'd brought him to the lake. No! Theo yelled, scrambling to his feet. No, I don't want to be here. Michael's green eyes widened. But you must find Elion, who can save... You lied to me. He can't save me. If anything, he's a monster. They stared at him, stunned. Theo plopped down back on the sand, wrapped his arms around his legs, and tried not to cry. A wing rested on his shoulders. Stokes settled down beside him on the sandy shoreline. Theo ignored the Roosh. Theo? Stokes scooted a little closer. I can hear you, Theo said, annoyed. I failed you. If I'd been stronger, none of this would have happened. Stokes sniffled, his 2 green eyes glistening with tears. We will cross the lake. You will meet Elion, and you will know he's nothing like what Ruza told you. Theo hesitated. I told you I don't want to be near your Elion. I'll stay right here until I wake up in my own bed in my own world. Please, Theo, the black fog is blinding you to the truth. Elion can help you. Theo had had enough of their chattering on about Elion. He jumped to his feet and stared down at Stokes. I can see fine. I see the lake and the sand and the sky. I see my hands and, oh look, I can see you. I see everything. I didn't ask for this. Michael stepped in front of Theo. You did ask for this. Come with us and give us a chance to show you the truth. You choose not to trust us if you want. But please let us show you Elion. This is your quest, not ours. He had completely forgotten about the quest for the seal that would save him from fear. The rustle of a wing at his other side startled him. Shatakai! He jumped back to see Gabble standing with him. His pulse quickened as memories of his time with the Shatakai invaded his thoughts. He saw the fire, the black fog, Ruza. They had given him knowledge, and yet he feared them and at the same time, strangely, wanted to be with them. He could either go with the Roosh or he could sit on the beach and wait for the Shatakai to find him. What did he fear more, the Shatakai or Elion? Theo looked out across the strange green lake, perfectly calm like glass. He closed his eyes. The air was sweet. It was calming, unlike the hot stench of the Shatakai cavern. I know we haven't always let you know much about Elion, Michael said. It's hard to describe the mystery of Elion. All my words get lost when I try. He's someone you have to meet. Don't trust our words about him. Don't trust the Shatakai's words. Come with us and decide for yourself. It's here, Gabble shouted, waddling toward the water. In the distance, a wooden boat with a single sail floated toward the shore. It came to the edge and stopped, empty. Theo stared at the unmanned vessel, dumbfounded. The boat had come right to them. But how did it... There's no one... The mystery of Elion. It sounded familiar and true, but Theo decided it must be a coincidence and pushed the idea aside. Michael crawled into the boat. Gabble and Stokes followed, waiting, watching Theo. Will you join us, Theo Dunnery? Theo let out the breath he'd been holding, trudged to the boat and climbed in. Stokes met his eyes. I'm so glad you're coming with us. Theo frowned and the small Roosh looked confused. The boat pushed off the sand and moved across the lake. Theo grabbed the sides, steadying himself as the vessel picked up speed. The sail caught the breeze, billowing out above the travellers. Soon they were speeding across the green water, leaving ripples in the placid lake behind him. Theo tightened his grip and made a note to add large bodies of water to the list of things he'd feared. The sweet fragrance grew stronger the farther they sailed. Sunbeams bounced off the water and they filled the air with a soft glow. Calm settled over him as they sped across the water. The wind hummed a tune Theo could not discern. The Roush focused on something up ahead, grinning, entertained by something Theo couldn't see. He placed his hand above his eyebrows to block the sun and squinted to see what captivated their attention. He leaned to the left and then to the right. Nothing. Everything around him seemed to know something he didn't. He tried again, not wanting to miss out. Then he felt it. Cold blackness crawling inside, keeping him from seeing what the Roosh saw. This knowledge has blinded you, and I will blind you over and over again, maggot. Was it true? Had they blinded him? Theo didn't know what to think anymore. He wished he'd never opened that book. Something in the sky caught his attention. A large black cloud was forming above him. Theo's eyes widened. The fog! It's coming back for me! Gabble and Stokes stood to a fighting stance, rocking the boat. I don't see anything, Stokes said. How can you not see it? It's right above us. The cloud formed a funnel that plunged down and formed a mist across the top of the water. It twirled up and around the boat, sucking Theo into its spiral. Theo gasped for breath, suffocated by fear. The fog dug into his skin. Help me! Help me! It's the fear and lies that you see, Michael cried. Don't try to push it away. Let it be. It's not really there. Don't let the lies inside you. I can't. It's too strong. The fog consumed everything. Theo could no longer see the Roosh, the boat, or the lake. All he could see was black mist surging and spinning around him. Worse, it was inside him. Darkness.